So the guys that do have those extra gears and those extra tools, they have to just make sure they stay patient enough to be a passer first until all else fails. Then you take off and use that extra weapon.
With all the promoting that we've done here, you guys know my feelings for Warren Moon. I just absolutely love the man. I mean, he is such a role model. He has been a role model for so many people in the National Football League, and guys like myself revere what his career was all about, and more importantly, who the man is, all the accolades that he has. We've talked about it before. Warren, thank you so much for taking time. I really appreciate you doing this.
Hey, Dan, anytime. I just want you to get one of my jerseys up there instead of Leroy Selman. My jersey should be up on your wall.
I'll tell you what. I'll send you one. Would you sign it for me?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to send you one. I will put that Warren Moon jersey up on the wall there. Warren, I want to start something out, and I talked about this in the last segment, and you tell me. I don't think, if you agree or disagree, I don't think you can win a Super Bowl in today's NFL with a running quarterback. They have set the game up so differently than from when you played, that pass interference. Can you imagine you, Warren, throwing to those guys like Gibbons and those guys down the field, and all the pass interference calls that you would have got because they respect your arm and your passing game? If you're not in today's NFL, and I mean by that is they've set the game up for the passing game and not the running game. And this circles me back to Jalen Hurts. He's a runner who's trying to get better passing. Can you win with that style in this league?
I think you can, Dan. I think he's going to continue to keep getting better because from everything I hear, he is a diligent worker. He works on his fundamentals and his skills every day. He's done that over the last couple of off seasons. And I think this year will be the proof in the pudding. You'll be able to see if he made any improvement from last year until this next year. He's got the ability to do it. He has a really nice arm. You just want to make sure his body and his fundamentals and technique are all in motion. And if he does that and then somehow get out of his mind, look at the first read, maybe the second read, and take off, as opposed to standing there. If the first or second isn't open, you still want to have the patience to sit there for the third and maybe the fourth. That's what the next evolution is of the good quarterbacks, the guy that can go all the way through his whole progression and not get too impatient and want to take off because he has this other gift that he can do to run the football. So it's not the fact that he can't throw the ball. He just has to have more patience to stay in there and throw the ball.
I learned this from Bill Walsh, and tell me if you subscribe to this. And I asked him about what really makes a great quarterback and how long it took you to develop this, because he said a lot of quarterbacks that have the ability to run, Warren, what they'll do, a guy say on a 15-yard out, they will sit there and as a young player, 13 yards, 14 yards, and if he doesn't see the guy open, he's only 75% through the guy's route. The kid takes off. The great quarterbacks sit there, and most of the great wideouts, they're at the 99th percentage of the route where they're going to get open. That takes immense patience and confidence. How long did that take for you to develop on allowing those routes to develop?
I think one game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, I took off outside the pocket and I'm running down the sideline. I'm trying to get extra yards, tippy-toeing down the sidelines. Donnie Shell, the Hall of Fame strong safety, plows me in my side and gives me a hip pointer. From then on out, I said, I'm staying my butt in the pocket and I'm going to go through my whole read progression. I'm not going to get hit like that anymore. So that's, for me, it took something like that to happen. But, here's the thing, Danny, the guys that sit in the pocket are guys that can't do anything else. They don't have the ability to try and take off and do anything else. When you have the ability to do that, that's what sometimes makes you want to take off a little sooner than you should, because you have this extra gear and this extra weapon. Well, where the guys like a Tom Brady, he can't think about taking off because he can't take off. So he's going to sit there and go through his whole progression because that's all he has at his availability. So the guys that do have those extra gears and those extra tools, they have to just make sure they stay patient enough to be a passer first until all else fails. Then you take off and use that extra weapon.
How important was coaching to you on being able to go over things with your offensive coordinator, whoever was there with you that you would bounce things off of, on being able to develop an offensive game plan? And by the way, too, Warren, when they were putting a game plan together, I think Ken Herrick, or I think somebody, or Mike Halovac, I think he was in the building as maybe your GM, if that sounds right. He had really a great coaching staff. Glanville had a bunch of good coaches around you. How important were those guys in your development?
Well, there's no question coaching is very important to every player, and don't ever let one of them tell you it's not. And I think you know as well as anybody, being a former player yourself. I had June Jones come in after my first couple of years in Houston, where I wasn't very happy at all with the offense we were running and everything. And he really came in and kind of changed the way I did things. It gave me a whole lot of confidence and really helped me with my deep ball and different things like that. So I became a much more accurate passer when June came in. And then Kevin Gilbride came in after that and just kind of took my game to another level. And I just started making Pro Bowls after Pro Bowl after that. And then I went to Minnesota and had Brian Billick, who was a very, very good offensive coordinator as well. I've been surrounded by some really good coaches in this game. Denny Green was another offensive-minded coach, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to go to Minnesota when I left Houston. Then I got a chance to be with Dennis Erickson for a little bit in Seattle, and made a Pro Bowl there. So, being in the right system that really takes advantage of your skills and also having good coaching is going to always make you a better player if you're open to taking coaching.
Can you imagine Warren Moon in that group that you had in Houston in today's NFL, dude? I mean, Warren,
we'd be pretty scary because you can't touch these receivers anymore. They just run free through the secondary, and you can't really hit the quarterbacks very much anymore. You could try and pressure them, but
you'd be still playing.
It's a pitch and catch game today. I love it. I love watching it, and I wish I could perform in it. But my day's over.
Do you like the NFL and where the game has gone now? And as a former defensive player, I don't really think guys like Joe Green or LT and them guys, I don't know if they could. There's a place in the league for them right now, and that they couldn't play because of the aggressiveness that they had. It's keep everything underneath me kind of guy now. And I mean, you like the way the game is growing?
I like the way the game is growing. I don't like that it's not as physical as it used to be. That's still football to me. When a quarterback gets hit, sometimes he's supposed to get hit. He's one of the 11 guys that are out there. So let him get hit. But I understand what the league is saying. They're the most important guy on the field. So you want to make sure those guys are there every week, because when the starter's not there, it's a big drop off between the starter and a backup, except for maybe one or two teams around the league. So they want to make sure those marquee guys are going to be there every week, and the only way to do that is try and protect them as much as you can.
Let me throw some NFL questions at you. The Trey Lance story, to me, is a troubling one. And by the way, I don't mind what the Niners and John Lynch did by bringing Garoppolo in. But, boy, I'll tell you, they've been telling the kid the whole time, it's his job, it's his job, it's his job. And all of a sudden, at the 23rd hour, they kind of go, well, it's your job, but you know what I mean? There's a but in there now. How do you think that affects that whole process and his growth?
Well, I'm sure it's a very uncomfortable situation for him, and he probably would never say that publicly, but I've heard some whispers from him that he was a little teed off, that they did bring him back. But I think they'll be able to work together. It just does put a little bit more pressure on the kid because, first of all, he's having to start for a very good football team, a team that a lot of people think has a chance to go to a Super Bowl. So that's enough pressure put on him right there. And now all of a sudden you've got your former starter looking over your shoulder just in case you make a mistake. So puts just a little bit more pressure on him that he probably doesn't need. But hopefully he'll be able to withstand that, and he'll be able to just go out there and play his game and not worry about Jimmy being on the field. And hopefully him and Jimmy will have a good relationship where Jimmy can help him and be more of more of a positive to him than he is a negative.
I'm going to take you to Baltimore with Lamar. I'll tell you, I'm a massive fan of his. I said this about him, Warren, a couple years ago. You know, the first year he took over for Flacco, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. I said, this guy will be out of the league in 5 years. What did he do? Next year, he's unanimous MVP, leads the NFL in passing touchdowns. And I'm like, okay, I'm 1,000% wrong. And he just consistently gets better. However, he's kind of reminding me a little bit of Cam Newton. And the fact that he plays the game so hard, and I don't want to know, and I don't know if reckless is the word, but because he wants to win so much, and now he's gambling on himself with his contract, how do you see his progression and how and where he's going as a starting quarterback in Baltimore?
Well, like you said, he keeps getting better every year. And last year, he had his first setback where he got hurt and missed some games. And you don't want that to be something that becomes a habit of him getting hurt more and more. And like you talked about Cam Newton, he had a great probably 6 years in the league where he was just tearing up the league. But I think that pounding that he took on his body really took his toll. And now he's at the point at only 33 years old, he's not even in the game anymore. So that's something I worry about with Lamar, the style of play that he plays. How much punishment can he take on that body of his? And I think that's something that the Ravens are worried about too, as far as how much money they want to guarantee him for the long term. But I think if he goes out there and plays this year without a new deal, he's still going to make $23 million this year, which is a lot of money. And if he does get hurt, Dak Prescott showed that even though you get hurt in the season, you still can get that money if they feel that strongly about you. So unless he has something that's going to end his career, I don't know what he could have that would end his career. But other than that, I think he would still get paid next year a pretty handsome sum if it doesn't work out over this next week. So the thing that worries me is injury, of course, but he's pretty smart with the way he runs the football. He doesn't take a lot of big shots. And like I said, he keeps getting better as a passer every year. And the more he gets better as a passer, the less he'll have to use those legs going forward.
Absolutely. Two last questions for you, Warren. Seattle now, will we see Pete Carroll as the head coach after this year, in your opinion?
I think so. I think that's one of the reasons why they didn't go after a quarterback this year is that Pete said, okay, we're going to bite the bullet on this season. We'll do as good a job as we can with Geno Smith or Drew Lock, either one of those guys. And we'll build everything else around it, be able to play good defense, be able to run the football like we have in the past, and hopefully our quarterback doesn't have to be a guy that carries us and we can still win enough games to get in the playoffs. So I think that's kind of their plan, but a lot of it's going to have to do with Geno Smith really playing well every week and not turning the football over, kind of the way Russell Wilson was asked to play when he first came into the Seahawks as a young guy. They had a really good defense, Marshawn Lynch in the running game, and Russell just had to make sure he didn't make any critical mistakes and make a few big plays here and there, and that's why that team was so successful early in his career.
Warren, I think I may have told you this before, but I want to tell everyone the story that you inspired me to play college ball.
No way.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you why. You played Indiana when you were at Washington.
Yep.
And I'm sitting in the stands as a young kid, and I'm watching you play, and I'll never forget looking over at my dad going, I want to do what that guy's doing right there. I couldn't believe it. You were at Washington. Funny, Don James, who's a Miami Hurricane, and he goes up there and builds that legendary program up there. And I've never told you that, but I watched you against Indiana, and I sat there and I go like this. I looked right over at my father and I go, I want to do that. And
really,
I just wanted you to know that it's funny playing against you in the NFL and then having had you inspire me to be a college football player and wanted me. I said, if you could do it, I think I can do it. And that's really how the league is, isn't it? And it just shows you how, the respect level that you have for everybody. And like you look at Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady's not the best player in the game today, but the players at 44 years of age, they respected him, didn't they, Warren? And they went, that guy there's resume is why we elected him number one.
Well, I think we're all inspired by somebody that played this game. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to do it. And It's very flattering to know that I helped inspire you to want to play this game, because it's a great game. But it's a game that if you don't have it in your heart, you can't play this game. You don't play this game just on the casual stance that, oh, I just want to go out and play a little football. No, you better love this game. You better have it in your heart, because there's not too many other sports where you get yourself knocked on your butt and you have to get back up constantly over and over again and go right back in there. And that's what football does to you. It tests your manhood. It tests your resolve. It tests how much you can get knocked down and get back up. But it also gives you a lesson about the rest of life, because life is like that. Sometimes you're going to get knocked down, and when you get back up, and football teaches you how to get back up.
Well, it never stopped me from knocking on your ass, though. So I. Hey, Ward, thank you so much, man. You're so awesome to me. Always. Hey, by the way, are you doing anything, the Foundation, Crescent Moon, or anything right now? You guys out there, you're doing so much in the community. I know. Can you just give us a little bit?
We just sent our newest class off to college 2 weeks ago. So we just sent 5 more kids to college, different colleges around the country, and we've got a total of how many do we have in there now? We have a total of 27 in there right now. So it's kind of a dead period right now because everybody's just back into school. We'll start our fundraising coming back up again here towards the end of the year and into the early part of next season. But it's been a good year. We have a good group of kids going in. They're all excited about going to school, and we got a chance to have a night with them all at an Astros game earlier this summer, right before they went off to school, and we had a great time together.
Warren, awesome stuff. Thank you so much for doing this, my friend. You always find time for me, and if you ever need me to do any of the promoting for you, just let me know. We're always there for you. Thank you, my friend.
Appreciate it, Danny. You take care of yourself. Talk to you down the road.
You got it.